The Crusades, invented in 1095 by the Holy See. The Crusades can be summed up in their entirety with this short video explanation.
No. No. Stop it. No.
And that's it. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. If, however, you want to hear the long version of the story, I suppose I can teach you all I've learned over the course of scouring Wikipedia for an hour. For 2 centuries, the Holy See called for multiple wars against the Muslim powers of the Eastern Mediterranean, with the primary goal of retaking the Holy Land and helping the Byzantine Empire. In this pursuit, the Holy See would infect many hosts, all persuaded to pursue the exact same goal, with varying degrees of abject failure. Much like the Transformers series, the first entry into the Crusade series is far and away the most okay. Everyone worked as a cohesive unit, it had a well-established, clear point, Megan Fox was the love interest of the main character. The rest of the Crusades had none of these things. The Papal States convinced a bunch of other Italian kingdoms, as well as France and the Holy Roman Empire, to join together, go visit Jesus' old stomping grounds, and help the Bys out east who were consistently losing land to the Seljuking Empire. So the Euro armies marched to Constantinople, then they achieve victory after victory all the way to Jerusalem. After they take the Holy City, they celebrate their grand triumph and everyone lived happily ever after, right? Wrong, idiot. After this victorious moment, the Europeans went full throttle into ruining everything. Rather than give back the reconquered territory to the East Side boys, the Europeans decided instead to use that land to set up a bunch of Catholic Crusader states, each ruled by their own Crusader king. These states were officially known as the Latin states, continuing the long-held European tradition of pretending to be the Roman Empire. This move pissed off every non-Catholic in the region. Not that the Europeans cared, they fucked off back to their homes as soon as they were done setting up their new shitty cardboard puppet states. Except for the Knights of Rhodes. Those guys were sick. Well, they weren't sick, the people they treated were sick. The Knights were fucking unreal and by far the best nation in any Paradox game. It wasn't long after the First Crusade that the Seljuks got tired of looking at the Catholics planting crosses all over their former land, so they began knocking over the cardboard cutout states one by one. So Pope Eugene, I feel like taking the name Eugene should just disqualify you from being able to become the Pope, but whatever. Anyway, Pope Eugene, under the influence of the Holy See, calls for another crusade. Once again having the backing of France and the HRE, the European forces began to slowly feed across the Bosporus Strait and die one after the other. The Byzantines didn't really care. They were still on their petty bullshit after being shafted in the territory deal of the last crusade. Like a significant other who just won't let something go. Like, yes, okay, I did have sex with your sister, burned down your childhood home, and had sex with your dad. But that was like 3 months ago, just get over it. But they didn't get over it, and instead just sat back and watched as the Crusader states fell one by one, and Jerusalem was back in the hands of the Jelkers. Except for the Knights, because those men and women were ballin' out, cannot be stopped, fuck what you know. The only real victory for the Europeans in this crusade was the fact that they managed to push Muslim occupiers out of one Christian territory, Lisbon, Portugal. You know, all the way on the other side of the continent from their goal. You see, some English buds were sailing all the way around Europe to get to Jerusalem in order to join the rest of the Crusaders, and as they were passing Portugal, they saw some guy on the coast screaming, So they stopped by and helped out, and then by the time they got to the Holy Land, everything was already done and settled. Oh well, maybe next time England. As it turns out, next time England was right, as the Third Crusade was led by Richard I of England, better known as Dick the Lionheart. He, Philip II of France, and Frederick I of the HRE led a Crusader army with some real potential towards the Holy Land. But Byzantine Emperor Isaac pushed Frederick into the Black Sea and he drowned, and Philip got angry that Dick wouldn't dick down his sister and left. So by the time Dick got to Jerusalem alone, Saladin of the Ayujelk Sultanate was just like, nah, get out of here. And Dick went back to his home in France, where he continued to do anything other than actually rule over his kingdom or have sex with his friend's sister. The Fourth Crusade was a mess in every sense of the word. The next time you hear someone jokingly refer to themselves as a mess, I implore you to tell them the story of the Fourth Crusade in excruciating detail and remind them that they have not even begun to understand what a mess is. Pope Innocent III gets France and the HRE to team up and take a field trip to the Holy Land once again. They blow all their crusading money before they're even out of Europe, so Venice offers to fund the rest of their trip if they go and fuck up some Croatian city. After attacking their fellow Christian Europeans, they continue their march until they get to Constantinople where they've run out of money again. Some guy outside the walls of Constantinople says if they help him become ruler of the Byzantines, he'll fund the rest of their trip. This guy actually does become ruler, but before he can gain access to the treasury, he gains access to being kicked off the throne, and then gains access to being strangled to death by a broke, angry crusader. The Crusader army then launched an all-out attack on Constantinople, causing massive damage and stealing a shitload of gold, and then they went home full of pride, knowing they've done God's work by dealing irreversible damage to a fellow Christian state. Due to the Crusaders absolutely losing their minds from step 1 onwards, the Jelkers controlling Jerusalem weren't even aware that this crusade happened. The Fifth Crusade. I don't remember this one. After being excommunicated and labeled as the Antichrist, and without an army that could even come close to matching the power of the Ayushalik Sultanate, Holy Roman Emperor Fred sailed to Jerusalem and led what could be considered a crusade in the loosest sense of the term. Fred just sort of asked if the Catholic Kingdom of Jerusalem could please have the city of Jerusalem please, and Sultan al-Sharpin was just like, yeah, sure, man, proving that religious zeal and military confrontation can be effectively replaced with a single translator. On to the Seventh Crusade. Alright, look, these last 3 are all the same, alright? They're shit. The 7th and 8th Crusade consisted of King Louis IX of France dying and being kidnapped, and the 9th, no one even gave a fuck anymore, not even the guy leading the army. The Holy See had been trying to take this one city for 200 fucking years, and everyone was just over it. So let's move on to the Sideshow Crusades, the ones where the real weirdos got their shine. The People's Crusade. Occurring at the same time as the First Crusade, the peasants of Europe were so excited by the religious adventure of a crusade that they started going around assaulting every non-Catholic they could find, showing a very strained grasp on what a crusade is, but hey, at least they were having fun. The Children's Crusade. German and French children are sold to Berber slavers by Italians because fuck you. The Italians pulled off one of the oldest human trafficking tricks in the book, convincing children that they're going on a crusade to liberate the Holy Land. The Shepherd's Crusade. You know how every 50 to 100 years the French general populace absolutely loses their minds and burns their own country down? Yeah, this was one of those. The Poor Crusade, the first ever attempted communist uprising in history. The Shepherd's Crusade again. It happened again. Now to close out this video, it's time for Misinformed's nearly millennium late guide on how to crusade real fucking good. Tip number 1, actually go to Jerusalem. Just go straight there, no bullshitting around. No Venice, no Cyprus, no Zara, no Lisbon, and especially no Constantinople. Tip number 2, no papal involvement. Don't get the Holy See involved. The hosts of that eldritch chair lose all capabilities of rational decision making and will only make your job more difficult. Tip number 3, no Italians, unless you want your children sold into slavery to some North African dudes. It's up to you, really. Tip number 4, no large army. You can move quicker and sneakier if you travel with a small force to just your closest buys. Tip number 5, say fuck it and just get wasted in Tel Aviv for 2 weeks with the buys. Once you get to Israel, decide that you don't actually care what the official religion of Jerusalem is, and instead go get hammered on the beaches of Tel Aviv and run a train on some Jewish strange. Honestly, that sounds like a better time than trying to knock down some Hebrew walls while dying of dysentery. Maybe that's just me though. And now, a few words from some of my patrons. Remember to say my name this time. Joke's on you, I'm not saying people's names anymore. Why let virtually no knowledge of a topic besides a cursory Wikipedia search get in the way of a good crusade? Can I eat your ass or nah? No homo though. Dude, I usually don't do this, but please cut out that Spanish flu segment because it is based off really wrong information. Only reason it's called the Spanish flu is because it did a lot of damage there. That's a lot of damage, especially infecting the king, leading to a lot of press. The origin of this was in the US, and that also doesn't mean it's a biological weapon, but it spread through the US. Theories claim that it came from China, but there's no definite answer. This biological weapon theory is definitely wrong though, because this flu was already killing people before the apparent bombing of Madrid. Please don't spread misinformation, but seriously though, I have a feeling you didn't put that part in because it was supposed to be funny. Fuck! Only thing better than the Crusades was the Holocaust. Holy fuck, man, again with the Danish. Okay, let's see if I can get this one this time. Det en pemendelse at svensker or Normandy? No.
You just said svenskeren.
Det nedre reiser I Skandinavien og skal behandles som hund? Whatever. Deus Vult! These bitches really be out here worshipping false prophets. SMH my head. Why don't glue stick to the inside of the bottle?